Anthony for breakfast, 783 Triple M Albany. Time to catch up with HR expert Jonathan Wolfrey. Thanks for your time again, Jonathan.
No worries at all, Anthony. Great to be with you.
Okay, we look at the horizon of the public forum. We can go into politics. We can go into a whole bunch of different areas. You've got a working relationship with somebody and then it ends up becoming an affair. I guess whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it, there's a lot of evidence that relationships will be part of the workplace forever. There's a survey that's come out that's got some pretty compelling evidence. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely in the public eye over the last week or so for various reasons, as you've alluded to. But workplace relationships, there are surveys that show, over 20% of couples have met through the workplace. And by the time a person gets well into their career, up to 70% of people in various surveys have said that they've been romantically involved with a co-worker. So whilst we might see the very public manifestation of these things, it is something that's very common in the workplace and does cause a few HR issues from time to time.
Okay, so if this is a reality, what elements do we need to be mindful of to make sure that things don't go bad?
First of all, as easy as starting with why we're at work. And we're at work to do a job for our employer. So that's why we're there. And everything that isn't there to serve our employer is not really something that we should get involved in. So whilst we're there to serve our employer, when it becomes grey and when we actually start doing things that don't serve our employer, that's when it becomes and can become an issue. And generally in the workplace, we'd call something like that a conflict of interest. So these conflict of interest, where we're actually serving an interest that isn't our employer, like in a relationship, if I go back a little bit briefly, is, if there's nothing that's impacting our ability to do our job, generally there won't be too many issues involved in that. So that's when it's all okay. But these grey areas, when we might be serving an interest that isn't our employer's, is when we get the problem. And sometimes that can be perceived or real. So, yep, we're definitely making decisions that further our own selves, like I'm not turning up to work an hour late but getting paid for it because I want to spend time with someone I like. That's a real issue. Sometimes it's a perceived issue, such as, a direct relationship going, my boss gave that person leave and not me because he likes her or him or is in a relationship with him. So that may or may not be the case, but people are perceiving that and seeing that. That's okay. These things do occur in the workplace and we need to be pragmatic and think, what, they do occur. It's how we manage them that's important and how we deal with these conflict of interest. Because it's not just with romantic relationships. We work with mates and maybe give them benefits we otherwise might not others or shouldn't and things like that. So it's how we deal with all the conflicts we have in our employment and how we manage those. So from my observations and what I've seen is if we actually look at, okay, where are we likely to experience issues with this relationship, whether it be a romantic one or otherwise in the workplace, and how is this perceived amongst everyone else? So we might put in place HR policies that say, okay, when you're making a decision, you have to declare who, if you have a conflict of interest there, if you've got a relationship with someone, whether it's a romantic one or even one where your best mate's at the local sporting club. So an HR person might go, okay, when you're making an important decision, you need to tell us about that so that we're clear about who you're trying to favour and making sure we're favouring the employer. Or even in a more specific situation, if we are making a decision about someone we're romantically involved in and we're their direct manager, then there can be serious ways, and there may not be ways to actually circumvent the conflict that exists there. So some workplaces might put in place rules that essentially ban that. We've seen that from very public things, romantic relationships with people we're directly responsible for, or if it's appropriate, they might put in place things that, okay, you're not allowed to make decisions. You have to get your boss to make decisions about that person you're responsible for and in a romantic relationship. So this is how we manage it. And should we manage it? Should we just leave it per chance? Well, my experience is there can be significant consequences for the employer and the employees involved. For the employer, lawsuits, sexual harassment, discrimination, all those things can occur, and we do see those occur on a not too infrequent basis if employer doesn't look after it. But, the collateral damage of two people working together that have been romantically involved on their colleagues, fears of favouritism, but also, if that relationship breaks down and the tenant, whether or not that workplace relationship moving forward is tenable as well, can have significant impact. So it's important to understand the fundamental principles involved and then look at how we might manage those and anticipate any problems.
HR expert Jonathan Wolfrey, really appreciate your help there.